Good evening, Husker Nation. I'm David Swotek, reporting from our studio with your sports ticker. Some Nebraska volleyball players are off to a good start this season, and there hasn't even been a game yet. Preseason All Big Ten team selection occurred today, and 4 Huskers made the cut. Juniors Andy Jackson, Harper Murray, and Bergen Riley were 3 of the 5 unanimously selected players, while senior Rebecca Alec was selected on the 20-player team. The coaches also picked Nebraska as the top team in the preseason. And this afternoon, Husker men's basketball gained another commit to join the team in the 2026 season. Small forward Colin Rice is finishing up his senior year of high school in Iowa and committed to the Huskers over offers from Iowa, Illinois, Northwestern, and others. The 6'8" four-star recruit is the first commitment of the 2026 recruiting class. Coming up next is the first hour of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
Tight formation, turn, toss it off to a little end around by Barney. He's at the 10-5, touchdown Nebraska. Jacory Barney slips in there, taking the pitch on the end around from 10 yards out. Nebraska stretches the lead to 20-3.
Pickens with a 1-2. Bland rolls the ground ball to third. Gibson charges, backhand stop, throw the first, the throw, wild, runner safe at first, Squire scores, now Lauren Cammon's in around third, she dives in safely, the throw wide of the plate, Bland around third, she's gonna score, everybody scores, a Little League 3-run home run for Sammy Bland, 3-1 Nebraska.
Between the circles now to Wooster into Morgan, back to the basket, comes left, dribble handoff to Asijan, took a bump, drives it, puts it up, got it! Holy smokes, what a great goal by Connor Asijan. He's not just a three-point shooter, my friends, 70-67.
Now, here is your host, Nick Handley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, welcome in on a Thursday, Sports Nightly. It is our last live show of the week. When we come back, boy, we're going to have a lot to talk about as we will be underway for the 2025 season with fall camp kicking off on Monday. We've got at least 15 to 20 minutes of open practice to the media. Coach Rule will be talking afterwards, so we're in it. This is exciting. Kyle Crooks joining me here for the first couple of segments, and then Kyle also had really pretty cool conversation with a guy that is going to get more than just the honors of when we see him out and about, Kenny Bell, who is a fan favorite, also part of the Nebraska Hall of Fame as well. Great conversation coming your way in hour number 1. Hour 2, we're going to be hearing from Jess. Even though she is off for the week, she also had a chance to catch up with Maryland women's basketball transfer for the Huskers, Emily Fischer. So they'll have that conversation for you in hour number 2. Speaking of women's sports, Nebraska volleyball high on the marks in the preseason. We'll tell you about them and where they fall in the preseason rankings amongst the conference and the, dare we say, best conference in college volleyball. Kyle Crooks joining me here in the first couple of segments. And Kyle, it's now 2 days removed from your Vegas trip. Big Ten Media Days wrapping up out there in Las Vegas as well. So we got a chance to hear the last 6 coaches and student athletes speak, and then everybody is heading back to their respective college towns, getting ready for fall camp on Monday. Brother, it's here. I mean, we got a weekend to get through, but once we start seeing those guys running around on the field on Monday, I mean, it's go time.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I've been telling everybody is I'm trying to learn this team, trying to learn names and positions, and my biggest thing is I just need these guys to get on the field. Like, that's going to help me more than anything to see them line up and practice. So our first practice is going to be Monday, 8:30 a.m. That Nebraska usually goes in the morning, as you know, Nick, about 3-hour practices here in fall camp. And before you know it, we're going to be talking about an actual game week. You know, it's going to come up pretty quick here with an August 28th kickoff against Cincinnati. So excited to see these guys practice and get a little bit more in terms of information on health of the guys and We hear a lot about the strength and conditioning and Corey Campbell and how he's gotten these guys to shed weight, put on some muscle. Dylan Raiola's at the top of that list, and some of the weight that he cut. And, to see him, is he a little bit more mobile in the pocket? Can he take off a little bit more? Those are some of the answers. You'll get a little bit more in terms of context and a lot of the things that we're going to see around this Nebraska football team. And we here at the Husker Radio Network will get a lot of access. So like that aspect of it for sure.
Yeah, no question. And you and I and Jess had a chance to talk about this last week of positions of most confidence. I want to go a different direction after we had a chance to hear from Matt Rule. We had a chance to hear from the student athletes this week. You guys had internal media day the prior week, so still a little bit more material to go off of. But if there's one area, not necessarily the one you're most excited to see because you think they're going to be the best, but if there is a position group or even some players that you're really interested to see here in these first week or so, especially next week as we get into pads, that first Saturday, fan day, and then the open practice, that'll be the first day of pads. Is there a certain area that you're zeroing in on come Monday?
Well, maybe a couple of guys I think I'm zeroing in on. I'm looking at my spotting charts right now to have everything together in position groups. I think the transition, Nick, of Heinrich Harburg, what's that going to look like at the tight end spot? How are they going to utilize him in different aspects? And we've seen him as the Wildcat quarterback. We've seen him in different areas as a runner, as a passer. Now he goes to tight end. He's about 6'5", 230. So they updated all the heights and the weights on the roster. So you could see the base of where guys went up in weight, went down in weight. And right now Harburg's at 230 right now. So putting on a little bit of size here, playing that tight end spot. How does he, as a traditional maybe tight end in that blocking aspect of what you see out of a Luke Lindenmeyer and what makes him so special at that tight end spot? And a guy like Luke Lindenmeyer, sticking with the tight ends, how does he grow as a pass catcher this year? It's something when I interviewed him and in a chat that we had on the air yesterday, he said, it's always been in my bag to be a pass catcher. So does Dana and Dylan get him a little bit more involved in terms of downfield as a pass catcher? And then sticking again with the tight ends here, we talked about the health of a couple of guys and Mac Markway and Carter Nelson. I'm really excited to see Carter Nelson as a pass catcher. This is a guy who came in as a wide receiver, has an incredibly high ceiling, probably the most athletic. Well, you could probably throw Heinrich in terms of athleticism, but the ability to be a pass catcher, Carter Nelson's probably the top of that list. We've seen him running around a little bit here in the offseason. It seems like it's a big story every time we see Carter Nelson running around because he went through the offseason hip surgery. And like we said, Matt Rule, when we talked to him in Vegas, he said that tight end group, he brought it up unsolicited, that it's a really, really deep room along with the wide receiving core. How can that tight end group help make this offense more of a prolific one? And you know it, Nick, how important tight ends are in that red area inside the 20s where Nebraska really struggled last year to convert touchdowns. That tight end group's going to be really, really important in turning inside the 20s into 6.
Yeah, we've talked about even that X factor of Mac Markway, what he might be in this mix. And you mentioned it earlier in the week. I mean, there's a guy that came out of high school as one of the top-rated tight ends. He just had some tough luck injury-wise trying to find a fit in Nebraska. It could be a very creative and deep group. I want to look at the defensive line, especially on the interior, Kyle, because I've said it many times, replacing a guy like Ty Robinson and Nash Hutmacher that were so instrumental in stopping the run, as we know, is so important in the Big Ten. It's just important in college football, period. But having this new wave of defensive linemen, I feel really good about what Riley Van Poppel can be, having that development year after he had some really good experience his true freshman year. But I look at the guys behind him as well. I'm looking at a Sula Fotu. I'm looking at a Keona Davis. I know he's going to be more on the edge behind Elijah Judy, but even as we've talked about with Williams Winery and what some of those guys can provide as depth pieces from a Cameron Lenhart, a Riley Van Poppel, and Elijah Judy, because, if you're looking at this too, Kyle, the thing that I felt it really behooved both not Riley Van Poppel, but that Nash Hutmacher and Ty Robinson were beneficiaries of is it wasn't necessarily the quantity of reps that they got. It was the quality reps. And you had enough depth that you could spell those guys at certain moments of a game. And then in the fourth quarter, those guys were fresh. They were very impactful in the fourth quarter when you needed to stop the run, when you needed to be a pretty steady wall there in those important snaps. I'm just curious early on if Nebraska can establish that, not just the frontline guys, but who falls in behind them, and can they create that nice rotation that not necessarily who you're starting with, but who you're finishing with is making a difference.
Yeah, I think, and we'll see in that first two deep when it gets posted for the Cincinnati game where guys really stood out in fall camp. I mean, when you mention this defensive line, so you know who's going to have to stand out amongst everybody. That's the Cam Lenharts. Can he get back to what we saw more in 2023 at, 3 sacks, but 5 tackles for loss? Riley Van Poppel, you had mentioned that developmental year for him, but it seems like he's somebody who's really getting set to take that next step. Everybody you talk to, everyone says Riley Van Poppel, he's going to be a star. So how much can he cause havoc in terms of the run-stopping ability and maybe creating those avenues for the guys at the second level to get after the quarterback? And Elijah Judy, like we talk a lot about Mac Markway and being recruited by the SEC and some of those top schools in the SEC. This is a guy who comes over from Texas A&M who's had a little bit more perspective in his life. He was been a dad here the last year plus, and he's last year only 1 start, so he's going to obviously see expanded role. This will be the first time really in his career that I think he's going to see the amount of snaps that he expected coming in. And then you look at the second line of that defensive line, a Keona Davis. How does he factor in? Gabe Moore also comes from the SEC, who really did not play at all in the SEC with Mississippi State. And Jalen George, we mentioned Marquise Watson Trent at the linebacker position. Can he play up? Well, same question goes for Jalen George, who comes from an FCS program, and Williams Winery. I mean, he has all the tangible gifts. This is a 5-star guy who was the #1 player in the state of Missouri, has that connection with Jamar Mosey, who's on this Nebraska staff. So a lot of great options to have. Again, you hope it stays healthy and all that, because there's a lot of guys in there. I mentioned Su'a-Lefotu, who you talked about. He was out in the spring, dealt with an injury earlier in the year. So if this is a healthy group, knock on wood, it has some depth. But I always say it about this defensive line is it's young, but has an incredibly high ceiling. Some guys that I would imagine are pretty hungry to show what their worth is on the field.
Cal had a really solid conversation with Kenny Bell. We're going to play for you here in a little bit later on in hour number 1. Don't want to miss that when we come back, though. Big Ten Media Days wrapping up. We're going to get some takeaways from the other coaches that had a chance to speak over the last 24 hours as everyone heads back to their campuses and gets ready for fall camp. Exciting times happening in college football. Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Just getting fired up here on a Thursday Sports Nightly. We're back after this.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fischer Investments, we start by getting to know each other, so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
Well, what other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, sounds like Fischer Investments has everything we need.
At Fischer Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FischerInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
At Woodhouse Ford, we're here to help you elevate your summer plans with a vehicle built for every destination. Lease the 2025 Ford Bronco Sport Big Bend for $279 per month for 36 months and 7,500 miles per year from Woodhouse Ford in Omaha. First payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Shop online or visit us in store at one of our 3 convenient locations in Blair, Omaha, and Plattsmouth. With approved credit, tax, title, license extra, security deposit waived. Must trade a 2018 or newer vehicle to qualify. Stock number FC250323. Vehicle is a courtesy retired loaner. Offer expires 8/4/2025. See dealer for details.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. Nick Handley, Kyle Crooks with you on a Thursday. When we come back on the air next week, our next show, we'll have one practice already in the books for fall camp as we get closer and closer to kickoff between Nebraska and Cincinnati out at Arrowhead Stadium. So as we mentioned, Big Ten Media Days wrapping up. Nebraska got going on Monday. Kyle was out there in Las Vegas. We talked a lot about some of the takeaways on Monday. Kurt Signetti, Brett Bielema, Ryan Day, Greg Schiano. I mean, I think there was a pretty good tone set by the first wave of coaches yesterday, and I don't think you ever really need any caffeine around PJ Fleck, Kyle, because he is he's pretty much all the coffee you need when it comes to caffeine and energy. But a couple of local things of interest when it came to what PJ Fleck had to say, not only about, as a lot of people were curious, where Malachi Coleman transferring from Nebraska, going to Minnesota, would he be in the mix for this offense and for really a Minnesota team that PJ Fleck was very so he's throwing some high praise towards what he's considering Nebraska to be one of the dangerous teams in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, one of the few guys, too, Nick, that actually liked the fact that the media days were in Vegas. Everybody seemed to hate it. Aside from PJ Fleck, he said, look, we got our donors on the plane. We're eating steak dinners. Meanwhile, James Franklin's saying this is a mess. We have no reporters out here because they can't afford to get out here to Vegas. Coach Rule, of course, wasn't a huge fan of it. So he was one of the guys that actually liked the media days being in Vegas. But he said something to have that local aspect to this all. He was asked about maybe the most dangerous team in the Big Ten, and he said that it's got to be Nebraska because I think him and Fleck and Coach Rule really get along. He said, I saw what Coach Rule had created at Temple, at Baylor, what kind of human being he is, and he has a clear vision. When you're a head coach of a Power 4 program, sometimes you have to negotiate from that vision when things are not going well. And he credited Coach Rule with never backing off what his expectations are, what his process is to create that program. And he says that Nebraska they're going to awaken back into this beast. So it was really sort of, when somebody who, of course, knows this program through scouting and watching games and being in the same league, PJ Fleck, who knows Coach Rule well, I mean, that was pretty honest commentary about where maybe Nebraska football is at in a positive way. And so that was a really good thing to hear from PJ Fleck out there in Vegas. And also some of the other things that maybe stand out to me from other coaches, Nick, is, a lot of the big conversation is around the college football playoff and how many conference games the SEC is playing and how many all Power 4 conferences want to be on that level playing field. And Coach Franklin said that it was the worst decision that the Big Ten had ever made back in 2017 to bump up to 9 conference games. And I want to get your thoughts on that, because there was the promise of you're going to get this bump from the committee on strength of schedule. Now it looks like you see everybody dropping their Power 4 opponents, and all those contracts that have been written up have been ripped up, and you're seeing all these FCS games that are being scheduled now. He's saying, look, Big Ten, we swung and missed on that one to go to 9 conference games.
And it's interesting, isn't it, Kyle, because you're hearing some coaches say we love the 9-game schedule. We believe in the strength of schedule, and that's going to serve us well when it comes to the selection process. But you do have some coaches, and a guy that it's interesting coming from James Franklin, for a guy that represents, I would say, the media darling in 2025 as of the sexy pick to win the conference and to be a national championship contender. So it was a little bit of a rogue play by James Franklin of not walking the company line, so to speak, when it comes to the Big Ten. But this is, I think, on brand for James Franklin. And I'll be honest with him. He had some interesting points with that, because you and you saw a lot of it through the SEC of the way that the SEC typically schedules their non-conference, other than that November game, that there's some pretty appetizing non-conference games. Now when you're playing the 9 conference games, there is probably a little bit more reasoning behind dropping. Like Nebraska was supposed to play Tennessee. That was going to be a fantastic home-and-home series. All of a sudden you're dropping that because you're putting more emphasis on the conference slate, because that's what you're being told in this new college football expanded playoff, that conference slate and the strength of your conference overall is going to hold so much value. We've seen it to an extent, but have we seen it to the level that, like James Franklin said, was essentially being promised, that one extra conference game is going to make all the difference? I think the jury's still out on that. So I didn't mind his thoughts on that. I think he at least brought up some decent points where a lot of other coaches said they believe in the conference, they believe in the strength of schedule. The 9 games are going to serve them well. Not everybody, as we've seen, is on board with that. Yeah, and you see also today, too, talking about that playoff conversation. So Lincoln Riley went today in the final day of media days and talking about the expansion of the playoff and how maybe that can allow these rivalry games, and the automatic qualifiers can allow the rivalry games to still be played. So Notre Dame and USC, that's sort of a game that we've gotten used to being played. And you remember the years of Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart and the Bush push and all that stuff, and some of those great games in that rivalry. So the automatic qualifiers, he's like, look, if we want to play some of these games and keep these big money marquee network rivalries going, we need the guarantee in some of these automatic qualifiers. So I feel like that was another interesting bullet point that came out of media days. Also, Dan Lanning had spoke as well, and they kind of felt comfortable in the fact that, look, everybody's talking about Ohio State and Penn State. He used the phrase, Nick, silent assassin. Like we're a team that's sort of sitting in the background right now. They won the Big Ten championship game last year. They had a rough ending, of course, in the Rose Bowl against Ohio State. But perhaps they have an unproven quarterback in Dante Moore, but somebody who they have a lot of expectations for.
and they have a lot of talent. We know that. They have all the NIL funds that are necessary at Oregon, but I feel like Oregon is a team that is going under the radar, if that's possible.
And you mentioned Dan Lanning using that phrase. You get the feeling this is probably where Dan Lanning's at his best, because it's still kind of unproven, in my opinion, of if Dan Lanning is the ultimate hunted in the conference, if he and his team will respond that way, where they'll wear that, they'll embrace it, and they'll look the part. I think Ohio State, especially last year, despite the 2 losses, being able to figure it out and win a national championship, they've played into that role. And I think there were sometimes questions of, is Ryan Day the right type of guy, where Ohio State's been very close in previous years with Ryan Day. There's a game, of course, against Georgia, kicking the field goal, whatever people want to talk about, and he breaks through last year. I think Dan Lanning, I think right now he likes that. I think that's where his personality and his ability to get the attention of his team and do his best work as a leader, I think, are in these circumstances where no one's disrespecting Oregon. No one's saying Oregon is going to take a major step back. People are just looking at Penn State, not Oregon, to be that team other than Ohio State that is going to take that leap forward and represent the conference. I think this does make Oregon very dangerous because they've recruited extremely well, and they've continued to put themselves in a position to where they're always going to be in contention. It's if they do finally knock it down, even though they won the as you mentioned, the conference championship game, they're the outright conference champions, and they're playing in a national championship type setting. How are they going to respond? And then if they do finally knock one down, what is their encore? That's what we're still trying to see from Dan Lanning and really this Oregon football program, in my opinion.
If you had to pick a coach, Nick, that is under the most pressure, now I don't think necessarily James Franklin is not on any hot seat, no matter what fans, if he doesn't take that next step to win a national championship, right? That all that conversation is absurd. But the thought is James Franklin can't win that big game at Penn State. Lincoln Riley is a name that stands out for me.
Right there with you.
Did I steal that one from you? Do you think he, in terms of the hottest, maybe not hot seats, because there's a lot of investment in Lincoln Riley, but under the most pressure in this league, who do you think?
I would say it is Lincoln Riley because of the attention, the instant success that he had going from one place to another, going from Oklahoma, then going to USC, and being able to bring, obviously, Caleb Williams with him. I think that everyone expects that move to lead to USC glory again, and it just hasn't happened to the level that people wanted to see. And now you're in the new conference, and you got to get your head above water again. So I do think it is Lincoln Riley. I'll throw another guy out there who I talked about yesterday, and that is Luke Fickell. Look, if Luke Fickell doesn't get to a bowl game this year, he is on a massive, massive hot seat next year. There's no question about it, because right now I think his buyout is right around the neighborhood of 40, just north of 40 million. So I don't think he's going anywhere after this year. But I think with what Wisconsin was hoping to get out of for a team and a program that was ready to win, when they made that move to Luke Fickell, they just have not seen the results I think that they thought they would have. And this is a very important year 3 for Luke Fickell, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the schedule that lines up for Wisconsin or doesn't line up, if the way you want to put it, for Wisconsin this year, I mean, it is absolutely brutal. We know there is some pressure here for Coach Rule here in Lincoln to make that next step. But in terms of the guys that have that most pressure underneath their feet there on game day, I think it's Lincoln Riley for sure.
Yep, no question. Kyle, always appreciate you spending time, my man. Hey, get some rest because, Monday.
It's coming, 8:30 a.m. Monday. Bring the coffee. Let's go.
Absolutely.
Line them up.
It's going to be great. Kyle, have a great rest of the weekend, my man. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Appreciate you, Nick. Thanks.
Coming up, Kyle's conversation with Kenny Bell, the newest member of the 2025 Nebraska Hall of Fame. We'll play that for you in its entirety. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. We've got that conversation between Kyle and Kenny Bell next on Sports Nightly.
It's the summer sales event with the Ford Groom.
Sam, 30 seconds on the clock. The Ford Summer Sales Event.
Great time to buy.
Correct. What do we have amazing deals on this summer?
Ford trucks and SUVs.
Is Ford America's all-time best-selling auto brand?
Let me think. Yeah, it is.
3 for 3.
What do I win?
You get to work at the Ford Summer Sales Event.
Amazing. think I was gonna do that anyway.
You betcha.
Based on Automotive News Almanac historical data and industry-reported sales data from 1909 through 2024 CY. Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Strength meets style in your new vehicle from Woodhouse GMC. Save up to $9,597 off MSRP on the 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali Crew Cab 4x4. Woodhouse Buick GMC. We are professional grade. With approved credit. Must own a 2011 for newer passenger car or truck, including 3/4 ton and 1-ton pickups and vans, and trade in their vehicle. Tax title license extra. $299 doc fee due at signing. Offer applied to select stock numbers. Stock number B250680. Offer expires August 4th, 2025. See dealer for details.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Back here on Sports Nightly, Kyle Crooks now joined by a very special guest, somebody who's a Husker legend, soon to be a Nebraska Football Hall of Famer. He is loved around these parts, and we welcome in now Kenny Bell, who had a lot of great moments, and we'll dive into a lot of those throughout this conversation. Kenny, first and foremost, congratulations on being selected to the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame. Ceremony will be on September 12th. You'll be honored on the field on September 13th. I'm sure you'll get a rousing ovation, but I want to say congratulations and welcome into Sports Nightly.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I really do. It means the world to me, Kyle, and welcome to Husker Nation, man. Congrats on the gig. I'm excited for you. Thanks so much. And, let's start there. So, Nebraska Football Hall of Famer to you, Kenny. How does that sound? Oh, almost surreal, honestly, Kyle. I think when I talk about it, all I can think about is how grateful I am. I played with some tremendous teammates. I had a great coaching staff. I went to a university where I get to stand on the shoulders of a tremendous group of former players. So the fact that I get to get nominated in this is I couldn't be more thankful. Take me back to the origins of becoming a Husker. So you're a Boulder, Colorado guy. You grew up in enemy territory in the days of that Big 8 rivalry. How did being a Husker come about for you, Kenny? Yeah, absolutely. So it was really at the time I was from Boulder, Colorado, and in Boulder football is not, a huge deal. When it's nice outside, people are usually hiking, biking, doing whatever. At the time, I really wanted to go somewhere that football meant everything. And I took a visit here in 2009 to when we played Kansas State. And really after that, it was no question where I wanted to go to school. But then I met Bo Pelini and the staff, and something that was really important to me at that time was having a staff that could take me where I didn't think I could take myself. And wow, did I hit the dart in the bullseye with that one, with that staff, because they certainly pushed me to be uncomfortable and push me beyond my limits. That's for sure.
What do you remember about that first visit? So you said 2009, Kansas State. What do you remember about Memorial Stadium and getting your first taste of Husker football on your visit?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first time in my life personally where I understood what college football fandom was about. I grew up going to CU games, and we had fun, obviously, going to those games. But the love and devotion, the dedication to the game that the Husker fans had, it was something like I had never seen before. I had taken official visits to Minnesota and Texas Tech at that time. But when I came here, it was second to none. I couldn't wait to get back here in the fall or in that following spring.
So I'm sure a lot of people ask you about Coach Bo Pelini, and boy, he's animated, fiery, you could say all those things. What did he mean to you and your progression here? I mean, when you look at the numbers, and the Hall of Fame says it all, you were one of the most productive receivers in Nebraska football history. When you think of the support that Bo gave you, the coaching staff gave you, what comes to mind?
Oh, man. There's a lot that comes to mind. One is really how grateful I am. The coaching staff was phenomenal during that time. I know how optics look, and I completely understand as Husker fans if that wasn't for you. And I don't hold that against you. But from my experience, it was second to none. My 5 years at the University of Nebraska shaped who I am as a man now. So I'll forever be grateful to that staff, and they know, I know, and I try and be vocal about it. But I love them to death, and I'm very, very grateful for them.
Chatting with Kenny Bell, who's going into the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame. Ceremony is going to be on September 12th. Will be honored on the field on September 13th when Houston Christian is in town. And you had that one redshirt season in 2010, Kenny, but you were productive right away in that 2011 season, and you led the team in receptions every single year. And when your career ended, you had the most catches, most yards for a wide receiver in Nebraska football history. Coming in and having that immediate impact, what was that like in terms of maybe building your confidence early in your college career?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got to dedicate that first playing year, so 2011, that 100% is on the secondary and defense from the 2010 team, right? So my redshirt freshman year was by far my most imperative year of football of my entire life, from second grade all the way up through the NFL. That first year, I got to practice against Prince Amukamara, DJ Gomes, Eric Hagg, Alfonso Denard. I got to practice against All-Americans, and guys that spent a lot of time went on to go spend a lot of time in the NFL. That first year I was at Nebraska, wearing that blue jersey at practice on practice squad was by far my most developmental year. So that is the reason why I was allowed to step into that spot in 2011 and really play good football, because at the beginning of the season, Brandon Kinney hurt his thumb, and a lot of people don't know, but he tried to play on like a dislocated thumb all through 2011. And I was young, I was healthy, and I had been able to practice against some of the best defensive backs in the nation for the past 12 months. So I was ready to go.
Yeah, when you're in that 2010 season, you're on the practice squad. I would imagine for a young kid, I mean, you're a kid at that point. It's pretty eye-opening. Did it give you the standard of, okay, this is how I have to work to get to a certain level, an eventual Hall of Fame level? So I would assume that 2010 practice squad year for you was eye-opening in so many different ways, not just on the field, but how those guys went about their business off the field too.
Absolutely. But that goes back to the staff at that time, right? We had a staff within our head man and Bo that demanded excellence in every aspect of life. It wasn't just, we're going to be great on the football field, but we're not going to be great in the classroom, or we're not going to be great in the community, right? That's not how life works. It has to be all encompassing. Football is just a microcosm of how we live our life. So once I started to understand that, that's when I realized, it's a cultural thing, right? And that's when you get guys like the older guys, exactly like Alfonso, Prince, how I saw they approach the day every day, Niles on the offensive side, Rex Burkhead. They got that from our head man, and that's just turned into our culture, and that's how a lot of us still live our lives to this day.
And the consistency that you had here, I'm sure you give credit to your teammates. And how about some of the dynamic quarterbacks that you play with, Taylor Martinez, Tommy Armstrong, even Ron Kellogg, who threw that infamous pass against Northwestern? I know you weren't on the receiving end of that, but you got to, celebrate that. Those guys that were able to make such incredible plays and get you in positions to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about Team Magic. At one point, make no mistake, Taylor was one of the most exciting quarterbacks to watch in college football. Team Magic was Team Magic before Johnny Football, right? Like, I make that comparison in terms of how exciting he was to watch. I know people are going to take that comment and run with it. I'm not going to deal with that. But I love playing with Taylor, a tremendous competitor, an incredible athlete. And then Tommy came into the picture, and Tommy is the type of guy that if you're getting into a fight in a dark alley, you want him on your team. I mean, the dude is he's tenacious, right? He wants to play hard. He wants to win. And then Ronnie's my boy. I love playing with Ronnie. And good thing I wasn't on the end of that, because we had Jay Westy, and Westy doesn't drop passes. So I was very thankful that he was throwing that thing to Western Camp, because I knew he was going to get reeled in.
Yeah, and what a moment that was. Do you remember, take me back in the stadium on the field at that point in time when that's caught, that Hail Mary to win the game, and Westerkamp celebrating and Kellogg's running down the field, that infamous sort of video as he's sprinting down the field. What's going through your mind at that point in time?
At that time, I actually remember exactly where I was and what I was doing, because I was in my street clothes, because I had strained my groin that year. I was struggling with a groin injury. And I was standing on the bench with my hands out, and I was in awe. I couldn't believe, I was really, Northwestern always gave us fits, really. And 2 years prior to that, I think, maybe 3 years, one of my best friend, Kane Coulter, who had quarterbacked the Wildcats, came in 2011 and beat us when we were number 6 or 7 in the nation, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And that always stung. So for us to have been down in a night game to them, I think it was maybe our junior or senior year, I was sweating bullets, and I didn't get to play. So
yeah,
I was anxious, to say the least.
And hopefully you didn't re-injure the groin there, celebrating when you had the injury. But you think of some of the names, and the one name that sticks out that you passed. I mentioned that you had broken the receiving yards and the receptions record, but a name like Johnny Rogers, who's a legend around these parts. You broke his receiving yards record, and then you break the receptions record for a career. I know, just getting a chance to know you a little bit here, it doesn't seem like you're all in on the individual accolades. You're more about the team. But when you break those individual career Nebraska records for a program that has so much history, that's got to be pretty cool, doesn't it?
I felt it was pretty cool, but I also at the time I didn't really think about it. I know for a fact that Amir and I, going into that Rutgers game, that he broke, I think, the all-time yards record, and I broke the receiving yards record. Neither of us had any idea that those were even on the table in terms of our careers. Going into the next week, I knew, obviously, because I had heard the week before that the receptions were on the line, but at that time, we didn't really think about it. We really wanted to play great ball together. I didn't think about it because I thought I was getting 6 to 7 targets a game, maybe catching 4 or 5 of them. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I was doing 15 to 20 catches for 250. Because at that era, we were watching guys from like Nelson Aguilar and those guys at SC get 15 to 20 balls, and that was cool for them. But we had a style of ball that we loved to play, and I wouldn't have changed a minute or a single down of my play in Nebraska.
Chatting with Kenny Bell here on Sports Nightly, heading into the Nebraska Football Hall of Fame ceremony will be coming up in September. Favorite moment as a Husker? You have plenty that stand out. I'm sure you could poll 10 fans, and they might all have the same answer. They might vary a little bit, but for you, what's your favorite moment in that red and white uniform?
Oh, there's by far it's when when we got to see Jack Hoffman score the touchdown in the spring game. That's by far my favorite moment as a team, as a community, uplifting that young man and his family, and then everything that came after that, right? The foundation, the relationship I had with Andy, the relationship I had with all the Hoffmans, and everything that we do with the foundation to this day. So that is head and shoulders above by far my favorite moment, not only in football, but in sports I've ever had. So
when you think in some of your playing days too, and you think to the kick return at Penn State, or a lot of people think of the block, people don't, when you talk about wide receiver, they don't necessarily mention the physical nature. They talk about the playmaking ability of you guys. But when you lay down a block like that in the Big Ten championship game that still gets circulated on social media, it seems like every single year. It didn't count because you got flags and things like that, but that's a forever moment that shows you that wide receivers, they can lay the hammer too.
Yeah, we took a lot of pride in our room in that. And honestly, I think I get the most notoriety because of that block. But if you go back in our film and you watch guys like Niles Paul, Brandon Kinney, Quincy Enunwa, Tariq Allen, we had a competition in our room as who could get the most knockdowns, who could be out there, being physical with people. So we took a lot of pride in blocking for guys like Roy Halou, Rex Burkhead, Amir Abdullah. The feather in our cap is certainly the rushing yards, right? That were accumulated because we knew to make our offense run, we needed to get those guys going, and to get those guys going, we needed to go crack on safeties. So we had jobs to do, and we took a lot of pride in that. So I'm very, very proud of that.
Yeah, and how did Nebraska, maybe the physical nature that you talk about, how did that prepare you for the next level, for the NFL? I mean, all these guys they're walking around the building now for internal media days, so you get a chance to see the guys in their uniform up here in this level of the building, and they all have the aspirations to play pro. So for you, how did it prepare you to be in the NFL?
Yeah, I think Nebraska is the ultimate preparation for the NFL, right? Especially when you have a staff that like we had, and honestly, like that we have now. I think Coach Rule being in the NFL, those guys understand what it takes. So when you get to live that every single day, that's one thing within your staff, within your walls. But then when you have environment like Nebraska, the kids dealing with fans, the culture, and like that game day appetite, that's going to be tenfold here than it is in the NFL, right? When you get to the NFL, you have a lot of experience doing your job. It might be earlier, you might get nervous like that, but everyone settles in pretty good. And in college football, there's so much passion, there's so much pride, there's so much pressure. It's a little bit different, I'd say. So if you can exceed here and play well, the next level, a lot of these kids are going to be just fine.
You still keep in touch with a lot of your teammates? I assume that you do.
Oh yeah, I keep in touch with a lot of my teammates. One of the things I'm most proud of, obviously, very happy with our performances on the field. Not all of them. But I'm most proud of the young men that I got to go to school with. I went to school with some tremendous guys, and I'm very proud of that. So, yeah, we definitely keep up with one another.
And, you're working in the media now. Is that correct? Can you let the fans know sort of what you're up to nowadays, what Kenny Bell is up to now?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm working at Her Dad Sports up in Omaha. I'm in my office right now here in La Vista. But, yeah, I work on, like, the content creation side. So you guys will be seeing me a ton at like the Husker volleyball games, Husker football games. Hopefully you guys know me. I love the Skurs. So if I can get to soccer, baseball, I get to everything I can. And then, I work on the sales side as well. So it's a good deal.
I can't wait to see you out at the games here at Memorial Stadium and Devaney Center and Pinnacle Bank Arena. We can't wait to see you around campus, and certainly well-deserved, Kenny. You're a Nebraska Football Hall of Famer. I don't know if it's completely sunk in for you quite yet, but we can't wait to celebrate you, and I'm sure Husker fans can't wait to celebrate you as well. And we can't thank you enough for the time here on Sports Nightly.
No, I can't thank you guys enough for having me on. It's always been an honor. I can't thank Husker Nation, my coaches, my teammates. It really means the world to me. So I'm incredibly grateful. Words don't do justice. So this means the world to me, and I love you guys a lot. So thank you guys for having me, and I cannot wait to celebrate with everybody on the 13th.
Congratulations. That's Kenny Bell. We continue with Sports Nightly next on the Huskers Radio Network.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to GoodRx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Woodhouse Hyundai makes it simple to shop for your next vehicle. Receive 0% APR for 60 months on the 2025 Hyundai Palisade and 2025 Hyundai Santa Fe. And when you shop Woodhouse Hyundai, you can rest easy with Hyundai Owner's Assurance, America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Visit us online at woodhousehyundai.com or woodhouseplacehyundai.com today. With approved credit, tax title license extra. Must finance with Hyundai Motor Finance. $299 doc fee due at signing. Offer expires July 31st, 2025. See dealer for details.
Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. So as the Big Ten's wrapping up media days, ACC's got theirs going on as well. Dabo Sweeney was speaking today, and I don't know how many people caught this, but there was Brian Kelly. He doesn't mind. I hate using the word the heel, but sometimes he will. He'll go that direction. Of course, it depends on what accent he's using. But he did make reference, I think this was at a Rotary Club, at the LSU Rotary Club meeting in Baton Rouge, where he referred to Clemson as Death Valley Jr. Obviously, Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium, also known as Death Valley. So Dabo was asked about it, and in very Dabo fashion, talking about there's always going to be a little bit of fuel for this. And, he's not wrong. And I think it's part of the shtick that you get from some of these coaches, especially when you get a little SEC, ACC thing going on. But what I did think was right on by Dabo Sweeney is when making comments like that, it's not going to help you block any better. It's not going to help you tackle any better. It's not going to help you run any faster. So I think he took as much of the high road as you can in labeling, obviously, what is one of the more historic venues, whether we're talking about Clemson or even in Baton Rouge. When you have the Death Valley label to it, there's going to be some pride there. So it's never too early to get a little bit of back and forth, but that's going to be a hell of a game to open things up. LSU and Clemson out there to start the season in Clemson at, as Brian Kelly called it, Death Valley Jr. Coming up in hour number 2, Jessica had a chance to catch up with the newest edition of the Nebraska women's basketball team in Emily Fischer, coming from Maryland. We'll play that for you a little bit later on. Got some more Nebraska football nuggets we're going to hit on as we kick things off in hour number 2. We're right back after this here on Sports Nightly.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health, and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Experience the elegance of performance at Infinity of Omaha. Explore special financing and current offers happening now. Receive 0% APR for 60 months or $6,000 dealer incentive on all 2025 Infinity QX80 inventory. Visit our showroom or browse our current offers online at infinityofomaha.com. With approved credit, tax title license extra when financed with Infinity Financial Services. $299 doc fee due at signing. VIN number S9604170. Offer expires 7/31/2025. See dealer for details.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Good evening, Husker Nation. I'm David Swotek, reporting from our studio with your sports ticker. Some Nebraska volleyball players are off to a good start this season, and there hasn't even been a game yet. Preseason All-Big Ten team selection occurred today, and 4 Huskers made the cut. Juniors Andy Jackson, Harper Murray, and Bergen Riley were 3 of the 5 unanimously selected players, while senior Rebecca Alec was selected on the 20-player team. The coaches also picked Nebraska as the top team in the preseason poll. And this afternoon, Husker men's basketball gained another commit to join the team in the 2026 season. Small forward Colin Rice is finishing up his senior year of high school in Iowa and committed to the Huskers over offers from Iowa, Illinois, Northwestern, among others. The 6'8" 4-star recruit is the first commit for Nebraska men's basketball's 2026 recruiting class. And finally, some MLB scores from across the country. Baltimore headed to Cleveland to face off against the Guardians earlier today. It was a close matchup, but the Orioles came out with the win 4-3. And then the Blue Jays flew on over to Detroit to face off against the Tigers. It's the top of the 6th right now, and Toronto's on top 5-1. Coming up next is Hour 2 of Sports Nightly, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
70-shoot high lob, caught by Petrie somehow underneath, in trouble, got to Hank for 3, yay! Gotcha! Huskers made something out of nothing. I don't know how Petrie got it to Kellen Hank, who buried the Central Valley Egg 3.
Dice has the sign. He collects the 3-2 pitch. Strike 3 called. Casey Dice finishes it for Nebraska. The dog pile is on. The Nebraska Cornhuskers have run the table and run it back. Back-to-back Big Ten tournament champions.
Pass made Franklin, the slide, Robinson, block back! Call the grandkids! They did it! Nebraska sweeps Wisconsin for the 3rd time this season. And hello, Louisville! The Big Red back where it belongs. The Final Four, number 18 in school history.
Now, here is your host, Nick Handley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Hey, great to have you with us on a Thursday. It's our last live show of the week before we get into fall camp starting on Monday. Nick Handley with you in studio. Jessica Cootie is off for the week. Kyle Crooks was with me in hour number 1. Good stuff there with Kyle and with Kenny Bell as well. Excited to see a lot of the representation, not only the 2025 Nebraska Football Hall of Fame class, but also seeing some of these guys out there at practices and making their presence known and always giving a lending hand any way they can. Kenny Bell, one of the very best. Good conversation. If you missed that, make sure you check it out on the YouTube page and anywhere you get all of your Husker content. So I want to get into Nebraska volleyball because if you've been watching on YouTube, especially when Kyle was on, you saw some of the players in and out of the facility as they're going through the internal media days or getting some of the hype shots created with Husker Vision and with the great video department here in Lincoln. But I wanted to get back to football here real quickly because, again, when we come back to you live on Monday, we will have a practice in the books. Now, of course, it's going to be pads starting the following Saturday. So you've got the fan day on Saturday and then the open practice. And again, if you haven't gotten your tickets for that, make sure you do so. Really cool situation where they're going to have that first padded practice. Fan day, fans get a chance to interact, obviously, with the team, but then having a chance to watch this team in action in pads. Last year, remember, if you went, you saw what happened. And there was, I was curious what that was going to look like. I thought it might be somewhat of a scaled back practice, not a lot to see as far as, good on good and position battles and what could you really take away from it. I'll tell you what, there was a lot because let's face it, you're not going to waste a practice just because you decided to invite the fans to it. So I expect another pretty cool scene there for Nebraska and for the fans to get a chance to see what practices look like and who's going to be trying to emerge from certain position battles and what have you. But also, if you watch the Chasing 3 series last year, remember there was a moment where Matt Rule had to stop practice, get the guys together, and kind of light a fire under their you-know-what. So, it's not going to be, well, we've got fans here, so we're going to button it up a little bit and we're going to take it easy. No, you're going to see these guys in their element. So always a cool thing. Again, that is a week from this Saturday. It'll be the first padded practice taking place for the 25 fall camp. One of those position battles, I mentioned, as Kyle and I did in the first hour, some of the positions of intrigue, not necessarily even the areas where we think Nebraska is going to have the biggest confidence level or what is going to be the most impactful position group this year. I think a lot of us are still looking at the defensive backs, and I know Kyle even said he's looking at the offensive line. I think for me, the offensive line is the biggest area of intrigue because of what you have coming back and then what you added during the offseason. But if you took in Big Ten Media Days and you listened to not only Matt Rule, but you're also listening to Handley and some of the other offensive linemen that have had a chance to talk over these last couple of weeks with Internal Media Day and various media opportunities from spring ball on. Tyler Canuck, do we forget about Tyler Canuck? That if there was a game that were to be played tomorrow, that Tyler Canuck would be the starter at right tackle. And I know you can look at that in various perspectives here. You can say, does that mean that the right tackle position is still very much in flux? Well, I think the short answer to that would be yes. But I think there's a reason why, too. You're looking at the health of this team and several guys, especially on the offensive line, not being available for spring ball. So in that overall evaluation period, who was able to take advantage of those reps that maybe were not going to be at least as frequent as they were in spring? And, Gunnar Gatula was banged up. You look at some of the other guys that are probably in the mix, whether we're talking about the right or left side. Obviously, Teddy Prohaska, his health, good to see that his health, and he's going to be a full go starting on Monday. But, even a Brock Knutson, some of those guys that you look at from the tackle position, who your frontline guys are going to be on, it looks like on that left side. Most likely Elijah Pritchett is your left tackle. Henry Latufsky playing on the left guard side. Justin Evans, your center. And you would think Rocco Spindler would have the right guard locked in. But that right tackle spot, I think, is interesting because Gunnar Gatula had some very valuable experience there last year. And I'm sure a lot of this has to do with how he's coming back from being banged up and what type of steps forward does he take from last year to this year. Because it was, I think, a very important year for him. And a guy that we talked about this last week, Jessica and I did, and Kyle. There were a lot of times when Gunnar Gatula was out there that you didn't know he was out there, which is a good thing. We've talked about this. Usually when we're talking about offensive linemen, more than just did you see that? Did you see him destroy that guy coming around the edge or, a hellacious block here and there? Usually when we're having a lengthy discussion about a particular offensive lineman, it's because it hasn't been consistent play. And for Gunnar Gatula getting thrown in there now in a redshirt sophomore season, I think for the most part he held his own. But the other perspective or other view you could look at this based on that assessment that if there was a game to be started tomorrow or to be played tomorrow, that Tyler Canuck would be your starting right tackle. Why can't we just say, hey, maybe Tyler Canuck has put in the work? Tyler Canuck is a guy that is finally found his footing, is healthy first and foremost. There are so many players that we've seen come here to Nebraska in the last year or two that came in with some solid accolades, have come in with a pretty strong skill set, have come from either great high schools and it stood out there, or in Tyler Canuck's case, you were a transfer. And, this was a guy that started out at University of Utah And just a lot of high marks. I mean, he's a big dude. Right now, weighing in or showing up at 6'6", 325. You know, that's obviously pretty solid what you want to see there. But for a healthy Tyler Canuck, I think that means something more than just, well, that's not ideal. I think right now, knowing that that is going to be a position of high competition, the conversation about Canuck and Gatula, where will that be when we kick things off against Cincinnati, Nebraska, and Cincinnati and Kansas City? But maybe more importantly, if both guys are able to stay healthy, will that be the one who finishes the season at that spot? So there's a key position battle, in my opinion, for a position group that we talked about it yesterday, talked about it on Tuesday as well, that is going to be absolutely paramount in this offense taking the step forward that it needs to. And I said this a little bit yesterday. I know some of you on the chat were saying you're trying not to drink the Kool-Aid, but it's hard not to take a quick swig of it. If you could tell me right now that the offensive line and those guys that I just mentioned, and then a lot of what Kyle and Jessica and I have been discussing the last couple of weeks with the first year that we've seen, if they are indeed depth pieces with the amount of experience they have. When I say that, I'm talking about a guy who I still think has a tremendous ceiling in a very healthy Teddy Prohaska, that if he's able to go into a season where, first of all, healthy, but also he doesn't have a lot of pressure to be that guy because you have Elijah Pritchett right there at left tackle, I think that's a pretty solid fallback plan, or a guy that can rotate in if he's limiting some of his game reps, but still has that size and that potential that brought him to Nebraska. That, I think, is valuable. But also the Turner Corcoran piece. Look, everyone knows Turner's time at Nebraska. You know, I know there's always been the conversation of, is he playing should he be playing more on the interior? Should he be playing at the tackle position? Well, you know, right now is going to have that opportunity to play on the interior. And that's a guy that I think a lot of people feel would be more of his natural position. And another guy coming off an injury, but has a lot of starts. He's played a lot of college football for Nebraska and in the Big Ten. To me, that experience is extremely valuable. And Turner Corcoran has had some solid moments as a Husker. But if he's also a depth piece behind a guy like maybe Henry Letofsky, all of a sudden you're looking at some frontline guys that, yeah, there's still some question marks. Look, do we know what Justin Evans is going to do replacing Ben Scott at center? You know, you look at going from Cam Jurgens to Ben Scott to Justin Evans that you hope can continue to be just solid play at the center position. But looking who's flanking Justin Evans between Rocco Spindler and Henry Letofsky, again, you're talking about a lot of starts in college football, experience there in college football, and in some big games as well. Then you look at the tackle position with Elijah Pritchett, and then if it is indeed Tyler Canuck or Gunnar Gatula, yeah, there's an area that you have to keep your focus on and see if that will solidify itself. It's not that the offensive line doesn't have some question marks, because it does. But what I think is most intriguing about this particular season with this group, and I cannot stress this enough, another year of development with Donovan Raiola. Again, we talk about a lot of coaches on the staff that are potential stars in the making. I talked about this last week. Matt Rule brought him up earlier this week at Big Ten Media Days, and Rob Dvorak. I think Matt Rule's absolutely right that he is going to be a coordinator very soon, because look at his position group since he's been here. You've seen high-level play out of those guys. And I know a lot of praise, and rightfully so, went to Tony White, went to Terrence Knighton, rightfully so. But I always felt like that was a group that always overachieved, no matter who they were graduating or replacing and bringing new guys in, that group always was pretty steady and solid. Rob Dvorak has done a great job. Another guy that I just don't think gets enough credit, because we haven't seen the complete look of that consistency that is going to be huge for this offense, and that's offensive line play, and that's Donovan Raiola. But I think when you talk to the players and when you see some of those young guys starting to emerge, and maybe a Tyler Kanaka is one of them. Look, I get it. He's now a junior, but he's been in the program now. This will be his third year. He's had a battle with some injuries. That maybe he is a product of that development under Donovan Raiola. Gunnar Gatula, another one of those guys too. So we heap praise on a lot of these coaches. I don't know if Donovan Raiola gets enough credit, but based on the guys that have worked with him and have played for him, they love him. They love what he's challenging them to do. And if this group comes together with that experience, with a couple of new faces that already have that instant credibility, like an Elijah Pritchett and a Rocco Spindler, and guys that have played in this uniform for a couple of years, they're in the waiting to provide that depth. This could be finally that offensive line that Nebraska needs it to be. I'm not saying they're going to be the most productive and nastiest offensive line in the Big Ten. They don't need to be that for Nebraska to accomplish their goals. It just needs to find that consistency with depth that if one guy goes down, that you don't miss much of a beat. This might be the one year that Nebraska is in the best position to have that element with this offensive line. All right, coming up next, Jessica Cootie had a chance to catch up with one of the new additions of the Nebraska women's basketball team, Emily Fischer, transfer from Maryland. We're going to play that conversation coming up after the break. Also, going to get into some Husker volleyball conversation. Big Ten preseason rankings are out. Where is Nebraska? Well, you got to assume they're pretty high up on that list, but we'll tell you exactly where they are. Also want to remind you that stop by your local Hy-Vee, where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee, dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. We've got more Sports Nightly right after this.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Shop Woodhouse Mazda during the Mazda More to Move You sales event. Receive 1.9% APR for 60 months on the full lineup of 2025 Mazda CX-50s and CX-50 hybrids, plus no payments for 90 days. Visit us in-store or online at woodhousemazda.com or woodhouseplacemazda.com today. With approved credit, tax title license extra when financed through Mazda Financial Services. $299 doc fee due with signing. Stock number X250190 and X250600. Offer expires July 31st, 2025. See dealer for details.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Nick Handley with you here on a Thursday of Sports Nightly. Always appreciate you tuning in, listening on the YouTube stream, wherever you might be with all of our affiliates. Appreciate you very, very much. Looking forward to getting some fall camp started on Monday. But continuing our newcomer edition, Jessica Cootie, before she took a little week off, had a chance to catch up with the newest edition of the Nebraska women's basketball team in Emily Fischer, coming from Maryland, what her role could look like, the path that got her here to Nebraska, and how it's been so far. Here is Jessica Cootie with Emily Fischer.
You've been here a little bit. I know you've been going through practices and all of that. How are you settling in? How are you liking Lincoln?
I love it so far, and I love being coached by Amy. She's really brought out the versatile play that I was leaving a little bit on the side back at Maryland, and I'm excited.
So you were actually recruited by Amy and this coaching staff before, right?
Yeah, for quite a while.
Yeah.
They were on my top 3.
So when you go back into the portal, how important was that you already had that relationship with this staff?
It was very important. I didn't want to just go blindly into the portal, not really knowing who to reach out to and whatnot, and they were willing to talk to me still, even though I went a different way the first time, and I knew that they really wanted me because of that.
That's great. What did you like about that staff, Amy, and Nebraska the first time around when it was hard to tell them no the first time?
It was just the family. Like, the relationship between me, my family, them, they reached out to us more than anybody. I was able to talk to them like they were friends, family. And just when you come here, you feel it as well. It's not just like on the phone for show. It's a real thing.
So when you decide to transfer, I guess what went into that decision? And besides just the previous history with Nebraska, because I know a lot of people wanted you at that point. So what were you kind of hoping to find when you did find your next home?
It was definitely more about basketball, being able to find that freedom that I had before I came to college. I lost a lot of confidence the past 2 years, and even being here for a month, I've gained a lot back, and it just shows that wherever you are, they bring out the best in you.
What are some of the things that you're rediscovering, that you're finding a new love for here with this program, and what they like to do here?
Drive into the basket, shooting the ball, of course. They're three-pointer shooters all the time, and just having the freedom to do that whenever and when you're open. It feels like I'm back in high school in AAU.
You know, the coaching staff has talked about just your toughness and your grit. Where does that come from? Why are you wired that way? And you're not afraid to match up with anybody on the court on the defensive end?
I mean, it's been like that since I was little. My parents have raised me to play hard, don't give up. My AAU coach taught effort. Like, you could not be on the floor if you did not have 100% effort at all times.
So you actually did not even start in basketball, right? You were a soccer player starting out?
Yes, I still love soccer, and I reminisce looking back at all my high school and club days, but that was for sure my thing when I was younger.
So I was going to ask, so do you feel like maybe some of that from the soccer field and the grittiness and being able to be so versatile, that translated into the kind of basketball player that you are?
Yeah, I definitely think soccer, the footwork there has helped a lot for my defensive stops, plays, my grit. You're very physical on the field, and that translates over to basketball. Can't be as physical, but it definitely helps.
Okay, so if soccer was the first love, how did you end up falling in love with basketball then? Why did that become the path for you?
I loved playing with my AU team. Like, high school was great, and I loved playing there, but my team that we had and the family, my coach, I stayed with them for my whole career in AU. I never left, and they just made me fall in love with it.
So people might not be aware, you actually have some ties to Lincoln. You might not remember it, but your parents, you guys lived here for some time when you were younger.
When I was very little, I did live here. My parents are huge Huskers fans. They went to many football games. They love it here.
You said they even wore the overalls.
The overalls.
Yeah.
I have them here now. I stole them from my dad.
So you're going to wear them to some football games?
Oh, I'm going to be at the games for sure.
Oh, that's great. So they kept them all that time, huh?
I saw them in his closet when I went home before I came here, and I was like, well, it's a sign. I guess I should take them.
So what did they think? What was when you got to call them and tell them that you decided on Nebraska the second time around?
They're like more than ecstatic. They knew, even when I did go to Maryland, they were like, had such a soft spot for this place. And so being able to get that chance again, they really knew it was the right decision.
The Big Ten is no joke, though. How, the fact that you have experience, 2 years of experience playing in this conference, what are some of the things that you hope to bring that experience to this team, being that you kind of know what it takes night in and night out?
I feel like when you're new to the Big Ten or freshman, you don't realize how fast-paced, how physical it can be. And I've been here for 2 years. I'm not new to it. I just know I need to bring the physicality. I need to bring energy, and it'll come with the rest of it. Like, you can have your skills, but if you don't have energy, if you don't have grit, you're not going to succeed in this Big Ten. So.
Love that. Okay, so we talked about your parents. You also have a sister now that's younger, and she's starting to go through this recruiting process. And I always kind of like to ask, for maybe some young athletes that might watch this podcast, but now that you have a sister going through the recruiting process, what kind of advice are you trying to pass along to her as someone that goes through this and you have that kind of knowledge?
For her, because I know it can be stressful with the calls, especially now it's changed a lot. But I want her to be able to go and visit these schools and actually get the feel in person, because when I was visiting, it was between COVID, it was a lot of stuff going on. I just want her to be able to actually be there with the people and feel it out versus just over the phone. Like, ask all the questions you have. None of them are not the right question. There's no wrong answer.
Good advice. You also have a special reason why you wear your number. Can you tell us about that?
Well, my dad played at Drake in Iowa for college football, and his number was 34. His number also was 3, which is what I was going for originally, but Allison has that. But 34, it's just like a family number. I had it at Maryland for a year, and it means a lot to represent him as well. So I just like wearing that.
What does he think when he sees you wearing his number?
Oh, he loves it. Whenever I go home, his jersey's hanging up in our basement, so mine's going to be right up there next to it.
Oh, that's cool. So you obviously are a football fan. Did you grow up a football fan then, being that your dad played?
Football family for sure. Yeah, every night there's football on. It's going to be on the TV.
So how excited are you then to take in football here in Nebraska?
It's going to be different from where I was before. It's going to be packed. I've been here before. I've seen it. So I'm ready to actually be a student here and experience that with my teammates.
Yeah, from a outsider coming in, what's your perspective of Pinnacle Bank Arena and the atmosphere that Husker fans provide for this basketball team?
When I played here, it was not fun being the opposing team. The energy, you can't even hear yourself think. Like, the coach, you can't understand what they're saying. It's hard to play there. So being on this side of it now, it's going to be really good for me.
Yeah, what kind of advantage does that provide a basketball team when you have that support?
Oh, it's amazing. Like, when you're going down, you're not having a great run, they're right there to pick you up every time. These fans don't go away. They're always going to be there, and you can count on them.
So you can do a lot of different things on the court, and I know that's what they love out of their players here at Nebraska, but are there certain parts of your game that you're hoping to really improve, focus on going into this junior season?
My main focus is getting my three-point shot back. Because in high school, in AAU, I had that in my bag. Last few years, I haven't had the opportunity to use it. And over the summer, I'm getting in extra shots, being very offensive. That's the overall goal. Just looking to score, being an option on offense at all times.
How has the team gelled and come together during this time that you have in the summer?
I mean, so far we've done really well. I'm very optimistic about this season, and with people coming back, we're looking strong already. The transfers look great.
Have you decided on a major?
I have. It's child, youth, and family studies. I was a real estate major, so I'm using that to kind of get bits and pieces and try different classes and use that.
Cool. Okay, so we've talked a lot about it, I think, but if Husker fans don't know what your game is like, describe it.
Hard work. That's the one thing I can say. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That's what my AAU coach said every game, and that's what I live by. Mm-hmm.
And then what are you just hoping to bring, I guess, to this, when you step on the court, what are you hoping to bring and add to this roster that's already in place here at Nebraska?
My biggest goal is my energy. I want to be on the bench because I know we get crazy on the bench. I want to be there for people. I want to be there for them to talk to me, to feel comfortable. I want to be here with my family. That's the biggest thing for me.
Great stuff. What else do Husker fans need to know about you?
That I'm ready.
You're ready.
I'm going to bring it.
I love it. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Great to have you here in Lincoln, and can't wait to see you out on the court as a Husker inside Pinnacle Bank Arena.
Me too.
Appreciate Jessica Cootie and Emily Fischer with that good segment there. Husker women's basketball team, look, they're again, kind of like we talked about a little bit with football too, finding some just solid depth pieces in the offseason, and Amy Williams looking to capitalize on what was a solid season a year ago. Plenty to build around, and that's for sure. Appreciate Jessica. Good interview there with Emily. Wanted to remind you that Husker Radio Network Broadcast Center, sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Husker volleyball team getting some high praise in the preseason. How high? We'll tell you right after this here on Sports Nightly.
Experience exceptional quality and lasting value at Woodhouse Toyota. Lease the 2024 Toyota Tacoma SR RWD Extra Cab for $299 a month for 36 months and 10,000 miles per year. Visit us in store off Highway 281 in Grand Island or online at woodhousetoyota.com. Woodhouse Toyota. Let's go places. With approved credit, tax, title, license extra, security deposit waived, $2,499 plus first payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Stock number GT250034. Offer expires 7/31/2025. See dealer for details.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Dear Truckin' Awesome. Want more horsepower in the stable? The Tundra iForce Max is the most powerful Tundra ever. With its electrifying twin-turbo V6, you got everything you need. Saddle up the Tacoma TRD Pro. Its segment-first performance seats are designed to smooth out the shocks when the ride gets bumpy. The Toyota 4Runner is part mean streak, part wild side, and an all-around icon. Check out that signature power rear window, will ya? Yes, sir, Toyota trucks. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
See your Omaha Metro and Lincoln Toyota dealers, Corwin Toyota of Bellevue, Village Point Toyota of Omaha, Baxter Toyota of La Vista, or Baxter Toyota of Lincoln.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
I got to see my brother get married.
I would have missed my dad's birthday.
Because I wore my seatbelt, I had the privilege of being part of his special day.
I got to go home and see my family again.
Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
I was able to go to my brother's graduation.
I wouldn't have adopted my first pet.
And then it clicked. My seatbelt saved my life. Does it click yet?
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
At Woodhouse Cadillac, we're redefining your drive with premium performance, advanced technology, and world-class comfort. Lease the 2025 Cadillac Lyriq Sport 1 for $449 a month for 24 months and 10,000 miles per year. Visit us in-store or online at woodhousecadillac.com. With approved credit, tax, title, license, extras, first payment, $299 doc fee due at signing. Must currently own and provide proof of ownership of the following 2010 or newer passenger car or truck to qualify. Audi, BMW, Ford, Genesis, Lexus, Lincoln, Mercedes-Benz, Polestar, Rivian, Tesla, or Volvo. Courtesy transportation vehicle with 573 miles. Offer expires 7/31/2025. See dealer for details.
Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse, the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. Nick Handley with you here on a Thursday, our last live show before we return to you on Monday, where we will have the first fall camp practice in the books. It's here, folks. It is here. Wanted to talk a little Husker volleyball as the Big Ten announcing its preseason rankings, and also the Big Ten also announcing their preseason all Big Ten team. And you can imagine that Nebraska had solid representation on that. But first things first, Danny Buzzboom Kelly, new coach, but not new to success. Both playing at Nebraska and her time at Louisville takes over for the legendary John Cook. How would everybody view that coaching change in regards to their confidence that Nebraska can be right back in the winner's circle when it comes to the Big Ten conference race? Well, there is a lot of confidence because Nebraska was picked to win the Big Ten by the Big Ten media, Big Ten coaches, and the Big Ten putting out that poll earlier today. Nebraska right now with winning 2 straight Big Ten titles, Penn State and Nebraska sharing the title in 2024. Penn State is right behind Nebraska at number 2 in the preseason rankings. How about those preseason Big Ten, all Big Ten preseason teams? Well, you got 4 Nebraska players that are featured on the all Big Ten preseason team. That's Andy Jackson, Harper Murray, Bergen Riley, and Rebecca Alec. So Nebraska well represented in that. But also you have Andy Jackson. She was a 2024 unanimous first-team All-Big Ten pick and AVCA first-team All-American. Of course, Harper Murray is a 2-time All-Big Ten first-team selection. And then you've got Bergen Riley, her first player in conference history to win the Big Ten Setter of the Year in her first 2 seasons with Nebraska volleyball. So, yeah, and of course, Rebecca Alec coming off of one of her best offensive seasons that we have seen with her. So, very well-deserved by all 4 of those Husker players. And it's going to be a season, again, where we talk a lot about schedules and how all of that looks for Nebraska volleyball. The thing we love about the early part of the volleyball season is the Huskers, they don't make you wait too long to get into the thick of it. And as we've been talking a lot about the start of Nebraska football and that season getting underway out in Arrowhead Stadium, of course, you'll have the alumni match, which is getting a lot of hype, and it should. I mean, you've got former national champions. You got players that are currently playing professional volleyball that are going to come back and they're going to challenge this current Nebraska roster. That'll be on the 16th, on that Saturday, August 16th. And then we get right to it, the AVCA first serve, where Nebraska will take on Pitt out at Pinnacle Bank Arena in Lincoln, and then they will take on Stanford. So that's right out of the gate. So, yeah, that'll be pretty much a blast. And then, of course, a little bit later on, August 31st, you get Nebraska taking on Kentucky out at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. So your chance to live it up out in Nashville to see this Husker volleyball team. So, look, big-time players, big-time teams. They play in big-time environments right out of the gate. And that is exactly what this volleyball program is doing. It's what they've done for many, many years before, and it has served them very well. No, I didn't say serve to, have a funny little pun there either. But some good stuff, some good praise for Nebraska volleyball in the Big Ten preseason and the AVCA. A lot of Nebraska representation on those preseason rankings and preseason teams as well. Getting back to some of the Big Ten Media Days coverage today, Kyle and I talked about some stuff back in hour number 1. But again, probably not as many of the storylines today. I just got to tip my cap, though, to my man, Deshaun Foster. And no, he and we don't know each other, but I'm just going to call him my man because that guy was taking a lot of strays last year with that awkward opening statement where he introduced himself, introduced UCLA to the Big Ten and said they're in it, Los Angeles. You know what? You got at least a good-humored guy when he can lean right back into that. Pick up from where he left off a year ago at Big Ten Media Days, where he had a big old grin on his face and introduced, said, "I'm back," and then said, "We are in L.A." Look, UCLA, they came to Lincoln. They beat Nebraska. They had some successes last year. They did. And I thought Deshaun Foster really settled into that job nicely. But I love that he's got a good sense of humor about that. I think he was trying to be funny last year, and it wasn't delivered as such. It didn't come across that way. And I'm not saying we didn't get the joke. I just don't know if Deshaun Foster did his best in delivering that. This year, though, much more confident in saying we are in L.A. And look, there's reason for Deshaun Foster to be excited because however he wound up in Los Angeles, and I know there are a lot of people in Tennessee that are saying good riddance to Nico Iamaleava. I did it. I know a lot of people just say Nico Iama. See, now I screwed it up because I slowed it down. Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava. You've got again, I'm not going to get into, is this the type of guy that you want representing your team based on, I guess, quote, demands when it came to NIL and the overall market value and revenue share? There's a lot of things that between his representation and Tennessee that they could not, I can't believe I'm saying this, couldn't come to an agreement. So he hit the portal. UCLA was more than happy to scoop him up. So again, regardless of what you think of the guy himself, he is a hell of a quarterback. And UCLA's got him. I mean, that's their dude. So I can see why Deshaun Foster is probably walking in with a lot of not as chippy maybe as he was a year ago. I think he's pretty confident in that. Kyle brought up something interesting about Lincoln Riley. And if there is somebody in the Big Ten, as far as coaches, that has a lot of eyeballs on how they're going to perform, I don't necessarily like using the hot seat because I agree with Kyle. I don't think all of a sudden USC is ready to make a move if, say, the Trojans go 6-6 this year or 7-5 this year, and they just don't feel that's good enough. Now, anything less than a bowl, okay, it gets very, very uncomfortable. Maybe the conversation is at least entertained. But think about at least considered to be the best coaches in college football. Just 2 years ago, when Lincoln Riley was comfortable at USC, he was settled in there, everyone thought, okay, now he's going to build that program, that structure that we saw so much success that he had under Bob Stoops and taking over Oklahoma, quarterback whisperer. Boy, what quarterback wouldn't want to go and play in Los Angeles and play for Lincoln Riley? Most important position. He's going to be able to get any quarterback that he wants. And I'm not saying that Jaden Maeva is not a solid quarterback, and he played very good against Nebraska last year. But the results right now for USC have not been maybe as significant or as, I'm trying to just get the right type of word to describe what I think people felt Lincoln Riley was going to experience right away when he got to USC. And I think that you just haven't seen that explosion at USC. You haven't seen that type of pop from the program that never has a problem recruiting out of the Los Angeles area in the state of California and finding marquee talent. It's about, well, now everyone's problem is keeping that talent, but also being able to identify that next wave, not only out of the high schools, but also in the transfer portal, and then doing so while adjusting to a new conference and the geography of the new conference. And I think this is a good thing for USC. I think the Big Ten part of this, where you can recruit essentially throughout the entire country, coast to coast, not that USC would walk into someone's living room in the state of New York and have a tough time selling that individual on Southern California, but now that you can return there and possibly play in New Jersey or play in College Park, Maryland, I think this helps schools like USC and UCLA. It's just maybe a little bit slower than what people have expected. And it's been mixed results. You've seen moments where USC has really looked good and looked like they're on the come. They're right there. And then all of a sudden they have a dud. And it's that inconsistency. We saw 2 years ago that the defense was a huge problem. Well, they tried to improve that. And last year, I would say by all measures compared to 2023, they did improve. But did they improve enough? Offense was, again, very inconsistent. You had to make the quarterback change as well. So it's just been a lot of stop and go, I think, for USC and Lincoln Riley. This year, yeah, it's got to mean something. It seems like he's got everybody in place that needs to be there. I don't think anybody is confusing this USC team as a team that's going to go on a run and win the Big Ten. But I think people are looking at this USC team as a team that if they can surprise a team here and there on their schedule, that there's no reason this can't be a 9-win team. Now, they're also like Nebraska in that 7.5 mark when it comes to the over-under and the win-loss area there. They're in a lot of people's preseason projections in that, 3 or 4 teams between 6th to 9th in the Big Ten. I've seen some publications with USC as 7th, some with Nebraska 7th, some with Iowa at 7th. You throw Washington in there as well. So they're in that pack. Can they do enough to get to that top tier? I think that's all USC's looking for. And I don't think that that's a big ask, given the resources that Lincoln Riley has in Southern California, but also the overall ability of him being an offensive mind where you feel like you can find that type of talent and it can have a major impact a lot sooner rather than later. So I'm really interested to see the Lincoln Riley part of it. I mentioned yesterday the Luke Fickell conversation, I think, is also one that it's more surprising to me that we're having it. And I understand why we are. But I think that one is a little bit surprising to me because I saw an article yesterday asking it, was Luke Fickell, was his success at Cincinnati because he had such a good staff, because he had such a solid coaching tree with him, and it wasn't necessarily Luke Fickell. I don't know if I'm ready to go there yet. I think this is obviously a huge year because if Luke Fickell can somehow get above water with the schedule that they have, I think that's going to show a lot. I think if you're a Wisconsin fan and you can find a bowl season out of this and possibly 7 wins out of this with that type of schedule, knowing that you're probably only going to be expected to win or favored to win in 4 games out of the 12 that they have, I think that would be somewhat of an overachievement. And that's what Wisconsin and Luke Fickell need this year. Those are probably the 2 teams or 2 coaches right now that I think are under the microscope the most there in the Big Ten. But as far as some of the other coaches that spoke today, Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz is the dean of Big Ten coaches, and he's a guy that, you think about his time at Iowa, and it seemed like maybe with some leadership change, maybe he was getting annoyed. Then there was the firing of his son, and the way that was handled, it always seemed like, Kirk Ferentz might have one foot out the door ready to go. But, I think there continues to be a appreciation for the consistency that all of a sudden Iowa has found. I mean, there was that time where I mean, it wasn't that long ago where Iowa would either have a 5-7 season or a 7 or 8-4 season, and they'd kind of ping pong back and forth. Now that I've talked about this a lot, they've risen that floor. And I think that was the most important thing. I think that's what Nebraska's after too. Once you can establish that floor and you bring that floor up to say 6 or 7, that no matter how bad a season is, you are built, even with the depth that you have, that you'll never go below 6 wins, that a bowl game is the bare minimum. That is when I think you can reach your ceiling. And I think that's something that Iowa has established. They've been in the playoff conversation a couple of times. Give Kirk Ferentz and Iowa credit from that consistency. They've been able to bring up that floor. And I think there are programs, I think Nebraska is one of them, that's trying to bring up and sustain that floor at a respectable level. When we come back, going to wrap things up here on Sports Nightly. Don't go anywhere.
You're not at your house. You're at a lavish seaside estate. You're not walking the dog. You're hunting for clues in an Agatha Christie mystery. See it differently with BritBox. Stream an endlessly entertaining collection of British TV, including new original series, Ludwig, starring David Mitchell.
Bit awkward, really. I think I might just have solved a murder.
And Outrageous, a scandalous true story.
Seems there's a political extremist in every family these days.
See it differently when you stream the best of British TV with BritBox.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
I would have never had the chance to see my daughter become a doctor.
Because my mom wore her seatbelt that day, I get to hug her when I go home.
And then it clicked. Because I wore my seatbelt, I learned that one moment in time can change a person's life forever.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
The day we were hit was the second to last day of our high school careers.
We were about to graduate as best friends together.
And then it clicked. Because we wore our seatbelt that day, we still get to experience life together.
Brought to you by NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Final quick segment here to wrap up the week here on Sports Nightly. Appreciate you tuning in and making us part of your evening. When we return on Monday, we will have a best of show tomorrow night, but when we return on Monday, we'll have the first fall practice to discuss. There'll be media availability, so we will actually see a little bit of this practice. So looking forward to that. Jessica's going to be back as well, Kyle as well. So we're going to come at it at all angles starting on Monday as camp gets underway, folks. It is here. We're getting closer and closer to kickoff, and really that I would say that ceremonious begin to the college football season, even though it's not a game, is fall camp getting underway as we count down with 35 days right now from the kickoff between Nebraska and Cincinnati on August 28th. So looking forward to beginning that process with practices on Monday. We'll have so much for you. And of course, we'll have volleyball. We'll have all of the fall sports covered as we always do here on Sports Nightly. Big thanks to our producers. Big thanks to Kyle. For Kyle, Josh, Camden, and the whole crew, I'm Nick Handley. Appreciating you watching and listening to Sports Nightly. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk to you on Monday.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraskachiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Shop Woodhouse Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and save on our full lineup of new vehicles with Employee Pricing Plus going on right now. Lease the 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie for just $399 per month. Visit one of our 2 convenient locations in Blair or Bellevue or online anytime at WoodhouseChryslerJeepDodge.com or WoodhouseCDJRBellevue.com today. 42 months, 5,000 miles per year with approved credit, tax title license extra. For well-qualified returning leasees. $1,999 down plus first payment and $299 doc fee due at signing. Stock number C250805. Offer expires 7/31/2025. See dealer for details.